more can I say?
Top Billin.
Hey, yo, Top Billin. Man, I'm laughing because I'm already regretting doing this, right? There are certain players out there, if we're being serious about it, there are certain players out there that are so polarizing that you cannot say anything negative about them or anything that's perceived negative because they have such a staunch fan base, like a fanatical, out-of-control fan base that won't allow you to just simply do your job like you would do for any other player, right? So I'm going to talk about my man Justin Fields here, right? And, of course, if you don't say anything positive about Justin Fields, then you're going to be labeled a hater. This is very much in the same vein when Tua Tagovailoa was very popular. Both of those dudes are supremely talented, crazy talent out the wazoo. Justin Fields, if you must know, I got a chance to cover him a lot in high school working for Rivals. The guy is an extraordinary talent, right? There's not much that he can't do physically. Arm strength off the chain. He can be accurate. Very good wills, just a very, very talented player. Is he perfect? No, not at all. So in the lead up to the national championship game, I did a film study on how I felt that Alabama's defense could affect Justin Fields, right, with fabricated pressure schemes and just the overall defense itself. And of course, people were mad and all this and that, and it is what it is. I just have to be honest. This is what you call working. So all I'm doing is working, right? This is nothing personal. I don't hate anybody. I don't love anybody. I'm just working. That's what it is. So I always find it funny that people like, on ESPN or wherever, they can just work. They can say what they want to say within the confines of it just being work. Whereas someone like myself, if I'm saying it, then there's some bias involved in it. I never understood that, right? So that's always crazy to me. But you know me, I'm just going to do myself. Pause. I'm going to be myself, do what the hell I want to do because, hey, I'm in control of my own ship here. So I found it fascinating, right? Listening to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay talk about Justin Fields, and it backed up everything that I said about Justin Fields prior. Like, keep in mind, I've seen this kid since high school. I understand his limitations, covered him at Georgia, way before any of these lame-ass clowns right here wanted to do 50 million things on Justin Fields every other day. I had Justin Fields content breaking down his play in high school in Georgia and everything like that. Ton of that. Even followed him over for a little bit when he doing some Ohio State coverage of his of him, I guess, in the offseason or whatever like that. And a few of his games until last year, right? I understand Ryan Day's offense as well. It's something that I know about before he was even at Ohio State. This is what I do. It's just what I do, right? I know that he is a master of throwing the ball deep, splash throws, fades, seam routes, any type of vertical route, he's going to crush it. If he has the time to do it, he'll crush it. He's naturally talented with that. Ryan Day's offense sets it up to where he throws outside the numbers. They have bunny throws. Outside the number, they will ride that ad nauseum. This is everything. You can go back and look at this film study, everything that I said. But the nuances of the game, I don't think he's that good at right now. I don't think he processes very well. He's a one-and-done guy. I said it before. Not saying he's one-and-done every single time. He's one-and-done a lot of the times, meaning one read, and then he's taken off. He'll lock in on his primary read. This is all stuff that just is fixed with experience, right? That's all it is, right? You're not saying that somebody's going to be this forever. You're just giving an honest assessment of where they are right now. But to hear Mel Kiper and Todd McShay talk about it, check this out. They even took it a step further. All right, we're going to do this. I'm going to play this and react to it, right? And I'm going to get into a film study of him in the national championship game. But check this out.
Second contract is where you get to like $100 million, and you want to have success in the league. I think Mel's right. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think Mel's exactly right. I was trying to say this last week, and I've been trying to say it for the last few weeks since Indiana and then the Northwestern game. He's not there yet. He's like, if you study film and you know what you're talking about, and you know how to identify what quarterbacks are looking for, and you know defensive coverages, and you know how to get off your primary to your secondary to your third target, you can see that he's not there yet. And Ryan Day is so good at protecting him and putting him in good spots that it doesn't show up a whole lot. But if you really study what's going on, Fields is not there yet. So,
why can Todd McShay say this and it be cool? But when Murf says this, I'm biased. And I'm biased for somebody that I like, somebody that I knew way before any of you guys knew it, right? Obviously, people know about my relationships in this business. I heard about Justin Fields way before he was even popping, right? So I like Justin Fields. I like him a lot. I nicknamed him Just Incredible and everything, but me liking him has nothing to do with analysis. You heard what that man said. That corroborates everything that I said. He said, if you know what you're looking at, if you understand coverages, this guy is not there yet. He talked about him going through not being able to get to a secondary or tertiary read, right? It's very rare that he's able to do that, but it's schemed up so well, and they have such great talent at Ohio State that they're able to overwhelm you with talent and scheme. But when he has to go against something that's challenging, like the Indiana defense and the Northwestern defense and the Alabama defense, then the excuses come out. See, this is why you know when somebody is like Tua or Justin Fields. No matter what they do, if it's not up to snuff, people are going to make an excuse for it. In the Indiana game, people told me that, I forget what the excuse was. It was something weird. I think they said the entire offensive line was out. Nobody was out on the offensive line. It was a bad game. That's all it was. They confused him. They gave him some stuff he'd never seen before. He was locking in on targets. They were switching up coverages on him. The fabricated pressure schemes were getting in his face, and he threw 3 interceptions. Now, this is what the excuse was. He still had 300 yards and a few touchdowns himself. That's cool. That's Indiana. You're supposed to overwhelm Indiana with talent. You got to put up stats against a team like that. In the Northwestern game, it was that Chris Olave was out. One receiver, right? The other receiver was Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? The freshman. But he's not your top 3 targets, right? He only has like 7 catches on the season. Chris Olave being out. So then I remarked that suppose Alabama is able to take away Chris Olave. They have the talent to do that. They may have not shown it at certain aspects or certain times, but that was against teams like Florida and Ole Miss that I felt were better offensive teams than Ohio State. Now, when I say it, people aren't going to get on me now, right? They put up much better stats against Alabama's defense. So then the counter to that is, all right, well, Murf, he didn't have Trey Sermon. Or Wyatt Davis got hurt, the guard. You can't do that each time. You're going to have to look at it for what it is. No matter who's there or whatever it is there, he's still going to be locking in on targets. He's still unable to throttle, right? He will throw shit hot. He'd be real close to you on screens and stuff and throw it extremely hot. He can't feather the clutch, in my opinion, on a consistent basis to be able to take velocity off the ball. I don't like his throwing motion. This is always something I used to see when I see him at camps. His throwing motion reminds me of Jared Goff's. It's very elongated. He brings it over there or whatever like that. But he has a strong arm. Byron Leftwich used to do some of that or whatever. These guys have strong arms. Jared Goff has a pretty strong arm. So that kind of eradicates that to a certain degree. But in the NFL, you're trying to project stuff forward to the NFL. Every team's going to look. Indiana, there's no Indiana Northwestern in the NFL. Most of the teams are Alabama on steroids, right? A great deal of these Alabama players you see aren't even going to be able to make it in the NFL. It's a whole different ball of wax. So you may have no Chris Olave on your team wherever he goes in the NFL draft. And then what? Then what's the excuse? Right? So you see people starting to get on Tua Tagovailoa. These are some of the things that I was saying about him too. He had some flaws in his game and people didn't want to hear it. But it is what it is. None of these guys are perfect. So let me let you hear a little. They actually think that he should come back. Let me know if you think that he should come back to school. I don't believe he should come back because he's a little injury prone and you don't want to see somebody injure themselves out of the first round or something like that. But they both of these guys think he should come back. They don't think he's ready for the NFL right now. Or if he does go to the NFL, they think he should sit. What do you think about that? Let's get to something else right here. All right.
A lot, but if you really study what's going on, Fields is not there yet. So he's either going to go in the league and need time to develop, or he should come back to college football and continue to develop. Either way, he's not exactly ready yet. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to be a great quarterback in the league. I mean, there have been so many guys. Pat Mahomes was kind of a little bit like this, and I've told this story before. But Pat Mahomes, I talked to him in his second year of training camp before the first game he started. He told me he didn't know how to identify a Mike linebacker, meaning the middle linebacker, which is something you learn in high school. Where's the middle linebacker that sets up the protection and all of that? And he said he needed that year with Alex Smith. He needed that year with that coaching staff, and he needed a year to actually learn the NFL game. So the problem is you don't know where Fields is going to land. Does he land in a spot where they need him to start right away? They throw him in. There's not a supporting cast and all those other things. I think that's the biggest concern for me. And he has to decide what he wants to do. But ultimately, I don't think he's ready mentally quite yet.
All right, so unpacking that there, if you're talking about the draft process, a lot of that does matter. You're only going to get a certain amount of time, I feel, these days to show your worth. I take a guy like Dwayne Haskins. Now, we had something about that with Dwayne Haskins here on the channel a little while ago, where I said that at Ohio State, I thought Dwayne Haskins was a better quarterback than Justin Fields from a quarterback perspective. Not from an athlete's perspective, it's not close. Dwayne Haskins is not a good athlete. Dwayne Haskins, I would see him going through his progressions. I have it right here on the channel when I did my film studies. He would go through his progressions. I watched every Dwayne Haskins game. I've watched every Ohio State game. That's another thing, right? People think that if they don't see you doing something, then you're not doing it. Sorry, homie, not me. Before you ever knew who I was watching Ohio State football. I got mounds and mounds of VHS tapes when I was a little kid watching Kenyon Rambo and people like that, right? I go way back in the day, right? Some of these guys that I like. So watching Dwayne Haskins his entire career, I saw something a little bit like he was able to process better mentally. Going to the NFL, that's a different story there. You got to continue to do your work. You have to be mature and everything like that. He didn't get enough time, in my opinion, or maybe he got all the time that he needed. He fucked that up. That's just what it is. You can't be immature in the NFL. They're giving you all this money. You're doing dumb shit. But in college, we got to see them. Ryan Day was Dwayne Haskins' offensive coordinator. You could tell he tailored it a little bit more for Dwayne Haskins and his ability to work from the shoulder up, right? Throwing the ball. He was delivering the ball. I think that Justin Fields has a better supporting cast as far as the receivers go. And Dwayne Haskins put up 50 touchdowns himself, 7, 8 interceptions or something like that, completing, 68% of his passes or something like that. Dwayne Haskins could go. He was dope right there. I felt mentally he was further along than Justin Fields. He's older than Justin Fields, so it is what it is on that front right there. As far as Justin Fields, though, if you land in a spot, like you said, you keep making excuses. He was missing a Lavi one game. Another game, he had a torn hymen or something. Like, come on, you can't make excuses. If you go to the Jets and you don't have enough talent around you and you're going against teams that are more talented, then what's the excuse? Probably need to be ready. That's all I'm saying. You probably need to be ready. Or you could fall in the draft. Todd McShay had him going 15th to the Patriots. I don't think that's funny or anything, right? This is football. These things happen or whatever like that. And I'm pretty sure he's going to adjust that or whatever like that. But I'm pretty sure I don't really care about social media and stuff like that. The only thing I ever see is when people comment to me on my channel because I don't go to social media. I hate Twitter and Facebook and all that shit. MySpace. Somebody need to die off MySpace. I hate social media. So the feedback that I know that he got, probably people were like, what do you mean? He's the greatest quarterback ever or some shit like that. People get so high and so low. You got to find a balance. After the Clemson game, he was the greatest thing of all time. You had dumbasses up on this freaking platform calling him a legend off of a semifinal playoff game. Anybody doing that to me probably never put on a pair of pads that didn't say Maxi on them. Seriously, you have to be a complete loser, right? You have to be a complete loser to anoint somebody a legend after a semifinal playoff game. Come on, this is when you're just pandering to people, right? Marcus Mariota, I love Marcus Mariota. He won a semifinal playoff game against the reigning national champion FSU Seminoles, and anybody remember that? No, we remember Ohio State beating them in the national championship game, though, right? So you can't do stuff like that. People want to anoint you when they really like you. The Clemson game, that was, to me, more of an aberration because I felt like Clemson was set up to lose that particular game because they can't match up talent for talent with Ohio State. It's a bad matchup for them, and that's why Dabo was trying to keep them up out of the playoffs. He didn't want no parts of that. Alabama don't have them problems. They have enough athletes to match up. Bad matchup for Ohio State. But you can't say that he's the greatest thing of all time, and then he turn around and have a game like he had against Alabama. I don't want to hear nothing about no injuries. He had a hip pointer. Wasn't broken ribs. He had a hip pointer. I had a hip pointer. Anybody who played football had a hip pointer before. You get hit in your hip, you're going to have a hip pointer. It's what it is, right? So he was fine. He was scrambling. He looked athletic out there and everything. But, man, when we get up on this film or whatever like that, you can see some of the things that I'm talking about in this particular game. But you have to weigh that against. He had a great game against Clemson. But, man, he had some boo-boo games, man. That Northwestern, that Indiana game, those things are picked apart by scouts. You got to think how scouts think. Fans talk themselves into stuff. Scouts, their job is to talk themselves out of things. They have billions of dollars riding on this for these franchises. They have to talk themselves out of things. It's a different way of operating. So I try to think like a scout, right? So I just looked at the time right here. I'm not going to be able to do a film study on this one. So I'm going to come back on part 2 and do a film study. But I want you guys to react to what you heard Todd McShay say there. You think he's out of line? You think your boy Murf is out of line, right? Retrospectively, was I out of line? I don't think so, right? So I come out looking pretty good on that particular aspect there. I think he's a very talented player, but I think he's got a ways to go before he is what people say he is. Now, if this is a projection thing, you draft him off of talent projection, yeah, we're talking. If you draft him and you want him to be the man right away, I don't know, man. He's got a ways to go with that, man. He could disappoint you in that aspect, but that's just my opinion. I want to hear your opinion in the comment section. It's your boy Murf, the Underground King. Thank you for watching. Peace.
What more can I say?
Top Billin.